So this is what we did yesterday in the certificate class. We did speaking and we did a slideshow. So speaking first class, we did our homework. We had a guest speaker called Julie Ireland who talked about teaching English to EAL students. We went over that homework and we talked about why speaking is the most important macro skill, and that how we speak depends on the field, the topic, the tenor, our relationship, and the mode, how it's spoken. And then once that's established, we have the genre. And whether it's high or low register depends. If there's lots of cultural cues you need to take note of, also can change, and that equals the language. So in Japanese, a high register language where there's lots of unspoken cultural cues you need to be aware of too. And we looked at genre within speaking. So classroom genre is different to research genres, where we speak. And we looked at this book. It's over here. Going over this for this week's homework, written by someone called Helen de Silva Joyce, who wrote the AIMS books for the domestic students studying English. So this everyone's got a copy of to look at. And then we went through the books, the Tessel book, as well as the Penny book. So we looked at, when you look at a piece of text, you need to break it down to the sentence and the word. So the word you can break down looking at the stress and syllables, the pronunciation, and the sentence, subject, verb, complement normally, and then the whole text. Okay, so analysis at sentence level, you can change it when you're teaching. So you change the subject and the object, or you could change the verb, and that could be part of the audiolingual method where you change this one part and have them elicit the other part. It's called a behavioural approach to teaching. Feedback cues are important. So yes, I see, I understand. Not in L1, whatever it is, the ano eto, such words. Signal words such as so, in that case anyway, are important to learn when we're studying speaking discourse. Knowing these words, we know that the subject has changed. So important to tell ESL students anyway means we're moving on, next conversation. Ellipsis, when you leave out, and you can leave out for various reasons. Maybe it's a bit rude, maybe it's an unfinished thought, you actually don't know the word. Maybe you've left it there because a pregnant pause can mean a lot. Like not saying the actual ending means more than saying it in some situations. Vocabulary, we're looking at how we teach it, which is the meaning, elicit it, don't tell them, pronunciation, and then the form, which is the grammar. So in that order we teach. And more on lesson planning, we need to see if it's adaptable, suitable, productive, can be produced, as well as predictable, meaning that if you're doing a role play, the students can think, well, it's a doctor's surgery, obviously I need to talk about my ailments, things like that. And we need to teach for accuracy first and then fluency second. So activities for accuracy you can see here, and fluency. So activities for accuracy helps to achieve the target language, and for fluency is more just spontaneous communication where we take note and correct errors afterwards. And games for speaking, where you have picture games, put in pairs of whiteboards, you have information gap, you can maybe have two lots of information, they've got to look at it. And lots of games like taboo game, the words written behind you, that person can't see, so maybe just talking to your team, not the other team, try and guess that word. Whisper game, Chinese whispers, storytelling, where you have to continue the story. And controversial issues, we have debates. You have a four-corner debate where you have four people have different viewpoint on something. So maybe yes, no, and yes if this happens, or yes if that happens. Interviews, surveys. Interviews a bit more complex. Surveys usually yes, no ticking, and then arranging. And when you teach, you need to make sure that you aim for the middle. You have extra work, I always say email me for homework. And low level, maybe make it a bit easier for them. Have an extra worksheet and a couple of them for low level people. So sequencing is, for example, this is talking about preferences, what you like. So you might start off with, oh, what do you like in the class to engage the shamatha? And then we give them first activity playing the video or the tape and they get the basic information about it. Second time, a bit more detailed information. Third time, we match the words that we've learned. Fourth time, we listen again, but this time fill in the specific words a bit more difficult. And then listening for prepositions, because often they get missed. And then practicing pronunciation. And then last one is we actually use that grammar form to make conversations. And that's how we sequence. So you get them speaking, but you do the listening first, but the last bit is the speaking. Just more on micro, meso, and macro of discourse. It just means the topics. So the micro is small, really tiny, within topic. So you might have like governance on biofuel is the macro, and then the meso in the middle is something about some other body, and the micro is the actual tools or special classified specific language that we use. So if we're doing chatting in amongst the workplace, people have found that most of the time we're doing like a story, a narrative, making up a story. Anecdote is this shouldn't happen because of this, like a moral story, recount what happened on the weekend. And talking about this is a story that has shared values. It's called an exemplum, observation or comment, opinion, or joke telling. So for each of these genres, our English will change. Genres have set characteristics that determine, so joke telling might be a bit of rude words and jargon English. Where if you're maybe giving an observation and you're talking to your boss, you'll use politer English. Anyway, in summary, we have more information about giving presentations, which wasn't in the book, but we just added this. So the summary was basically speaking is the most important macro skill, and then I added a bit about how to give presentations. And when you're teaching, you can teach to make it that the speaking imitates, you just feedback. Intensive, where you just have 2 or 3 questions, answer back. Responsive, where you interact with the interlocutor, is the person who gives the questions in a test, but limited short versions of the questions. Interactive is equal, 50-50, and extensive is when I ask you to give a presentation. And there's various tests. The PTE, for example, we call the phone pass test, where in that kind of test, you listen, then you answer. So it's only one-sided. So we have different ways to explain. So completely interacting, half interacting, and non-interacting. So that one is the phone pass test, which is non-interacting. And about a rubric, so talking about how you give speaking assessments. So for lower levels, you might have smiley faces, basic one. But for EAP higher level, you might have a bit more detail like this one. And you normally would mark them on the content. And if you've done it sequentially, your body, your voice, meaning speak clearly, slowly, not too many filler words, adapt speech for the actual task at hand. And that was about it. Just the homework was to look at this site and find some games that might be of interest that we haven't spoken about today. And that was our speaking assessment for the 19th speaking class.